Welcome to the Superstition Wilderness. Today we're just going to take a short hike along this ridge and try to give you a little information about this very interesting wilderness area. It's absolutely beautiful, and I'm glad you could join me on this short hike this morning. Before we get started down here and get into a lot of the details, I do want to give a shout out to some of my junior rangers, Paige, Alice, and Preston. So you guys come along with me on the hike, and this summer when we get back to Montana, we'll do some more. But right now, we're going to head along this ridge and get a good look at the area.
I want to point out that we are near the First Water Trailhead in the western part of the Superstitions. The eastern section of the Superstitions is a higher altitude and includes a more forested terrain. The wilderness itself is about 160,000 acres, and it's all part of the Tonto National Forest, located about 40 miles east of Phoenix, and the elevation runs from the desert floor to over 5,000 feet. This is a wilderness area, and all wilderness rules apply, and perhaps the most important is the ethical leave no trace principles. There are 180 miles of trails, and if you stick to the established trails, you should have no problems. But this is desert, so be aware you need to bring plenty of water. There are snakes, flash floods, of course heat, and it can get awful cold some nights. The wilderness is also rich in history, and there are many, many books written about the Superstition Wilderness. Maybe the most important, or not important, but the most well-known is The Search for the Lost Dutchman Gold, the story of Jacob Waltz. There are also all sorts of animals, from the desert tortoise to the Gila monster, several types of snakes, frogs, ducks, hawks, and other kind of birds. And there are small mammals, from rabbits to squirrels to raccoons and badgers, and of course the elusive white-faced Cucamonga. There are also larger mammals, foxes, coyotes, mountain lions, black bear, javelina, deer, both whitetail and muleys, and bighorn sheep. Hiking and backpacking are all very popular. The Mesa Ranger District of the Tonto National Forest can provide maps as well as lots of other information on the trail conditions. And in the western section, Wilderness Stewards are available in the winter season, October to April, at both the First Water and the Peralta trailheads. There are several books written about backpacking and hiking in the Superstitions, and one I would recommend is the Superstition Wilderness Trails, both east and west, 2 editions, and that information will be listed below. It's written by Jack Carlson and Elizabeth Stewart.
Well, take a little bit of a break. This part of the desert is nothing like I thought it would be when I first came here, well, visiting 30 years ago, but actually hiking out in it probably 7 or 8 years ago. It's a beautiful place. One thing I want to mention, because my channel is somewhat designed, slanted towards seniors, but this is a good tip for anybody. One thing I always take with me, always use, are my hiking sticks, my trekking poles, I guess they're called. You need to do it. It's easy to slip on some of these rocks. The gravel can be slippery, and it's saved me from a fall many times. So I highly recommend you bring your trekking poles. The other thing I always use are leather gloves. Be sure you bring or wear leather gloves. They're handy for all sorts of things. But if you do need to fall or brace yourself, it's a good idea to have something to protect your hands. Obviously, you need to bring plenty of water as well. Well, I wanted to take this opportunity just to show you a little bit about the Superstition Wilderness. I hope the information that I've been able to give you is helpful. It's very accessible from the Phoenix area. Two main trails that are often used are the First Water Trail and the Peralta Trail. They will get you both back into the Superstitions, and there's lots of loops, lots of ways you can go. Water is somewhat scarce depending on the time of the year. Those two trailheads do have water posted signs that tell you where the water is, but always carry plenty. So anyway, let's take another look at it down here and hike back down the trail.
Earlier in the video, I mentioned the volunteer called a Wilderness Steward. I serve as one myself, working out of either one of the trailheads, and one of the most common questions that I get asked by hikers, of course, is, are there any snakes out? Well, maybe. It depends on the year, the season, the conditions, the temperature, etc. But the wilderness does have quite a few snakes. Of course, the western diamondback is the most common rattlesnake. There are also other types of rattlesnakes, as well as common king snakes, garter snakes, gopher snakes, which are often confused with the rattlesnakes. And also, I've been fortunate enough to be able to see the elusive Gila monster twice, and that was quite a treat. If you found this video useful, please subscribe to my channel and maybe even give me a thumbs up. I'm going to be doing a lot more hikes and overnight backpacking trips into the Superstitions this season, and I hope you're able to tune in and join me. Meanwhile, keep hiking.